It was basically make it or just, but I was making a living within 6 months.
Oh, that's very fast for a new business.
In those 6 months, things started changing. I started making a good profit and able to get my own place. And I could just see the future, that self-employment was where I wanted to be.
What's been the most frustrating thing for you just owning this business and having to deal with so many different people, so many different businesses all at one time, because you're a business to business? All right, welcome to this episode of Morgan Means Business Podcast. Today we have David McGough. He's the owner of Color Craft, and also he owns a dog breeding business. What is the name of it now?
Powerline Kennels.
Powerline Kennels. Also, his most important role, arguably, my dad. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, I always start these episodes asking people more about their personal life. We'll get into your business and what you do later on in the podcast, but I want to kind of just build the story of who you are and how you got here. So,
long story.
Yeah. So, I know that you came to this country as a young child. Can you tell me when that was and how that was for you?
Yeah, well, it was the early 70s. My father was military, master sergeant, and married my mother in Korea. So he retired. We went from Seoul, Korea to Washington, from Washington, Missouri, from Missouri to Fort Deposit, Alabama. And then we ended up in an elite neighborhood called Chisholm, Alabama.
I think probably some of our listeners will be familiar with Chisholm.
Yeah.
So how was it growing up, being raised in Montgomery area as probably one of the first Asian Korean families with a mom who didn't speak much English?
Yeah, it was a little difficult. I didn't know any different because I was real young, but Alabama hasn't really gotten away from some of its old feelings in the 70s. So being the only family to look the way we looked and sound the way my mother sound, there was a lot of discrimination. A lot of people didn't like us. I would attribute it to maybe the Vietnam War, I'm not sure, but they didn't like change back then. So we stood out, and it was a little awkward.
Yeah. So you have two successful businesses and a family. You have me, of course, and then my siblings. So how was that for you, running two businesses, having your responsibilities at home, and kind of balancing all of that?
Well, as a young man, I had a lot of energy, and I always, and this is probably to my downfall, felt like I could do anything. But I love self-employment. It was a struggle at first, but running the two businesses and being a head of a house, a husband and a father, it's a lot. It really is, because everybody's deserving of the time, and you can only cut a pie in so many slices. Mm-hmm. But it was enjoyable, and family's always been my priority, but unfortunately, you have to have money to raise a family, so you have to kind of balance it out.
Yeah. And with your dog breeding business, I wanted to kind of hear why you wanted to go into this and why the breed of dog that you chose.
Well, they're American Pit Bull Terriers, and as a young child, my brother got us two puppies that were given to us, and one of them passed away. We were very young. We didn't know what we were doing, and they were sick pups, and we got the other one well and raised it, and I come to really love this dog and the tenacity and the loyalty of this breed. So I became a fan of the American Pit Bull Terrier at age 9 years old, and I've always loved them. But growing up poor, we just didn't have money to buy dogs. So when I became an adult and I started getting in a position where I could afford it, I started collecting dogs from around the United States to create my own version of what I think is what the American Pit Bull Terrier should be.
Mm-hmm. And you're kind of obsessed with genetics where the dogs are concerned.
Yes. I think that comes in from me being mixed myself, my mother being Korean and my father being Irish, and there's a couple other things threw in there, but small percentages. So I looked at everything from a genetic aspect, because there wasn't a lot of mixed families in the 70s in Alabama. So we were kind of unique, and I could see where I got certain traits from my mother and certain traits from my father. And I don't know, I think that's where it started, but I am a little obsessed with genetic traits in the dogs and the breeding aspect of it. It's more of a hobby. I wouldn't say successful, but I do enjoy it.
Hey, real quick before we get to the rest of the episode, if you're a local Baldwin County business owner and you'd like to learn how a podcast could help grow your business, or you're looking to grow your business through digital marketing or video content, email me directly at morgan@posteditmedia.com or check out my website at posteditmedia.com. All right, back to the rest of the episode. When you are working with your hobby, your business with the dogs, with this specific breed, I'm sure you come in contact with a lot of different characters, a lot of different people over the years. What are some, without, naming names, we don't want to do anything that looks bad for you, but can you tell me some of the crazier stories that you've gone through?
Oh, wow. Wasn't prepared for that one. There's been so many.
Don't prepare.
Well, I think every breeder's worst nightmare is dealing with low-class people who have attentions and desires without ability, when I'm talking about money. And then you've got, individuals who depend on breeding to pay their bills and things like that. And mine's more of a hobby. And when you depend on something, you have a tendency to compromise. So I see a lot of compromise in this breed as far as what the breed should be and then what most of them are.
Can I tell you a story I remember?
Sure.
Okay, I'll tell you two. And I might be remembering them wrong. I was very young. One, I went along with you to pick up a dog one time, and a guy was trying to, instead of paying you for the dog, he wanted to trade a dog for a horse for me. Is that correct?
No, I think he was just trying to give you the horse. He was being nice.
He was just trying to give me a horse.
Yeah.
That was crazy. I remember that. And then there was another one where I remember we went somewhere, maybe to look at a dog or get a dog or sell a dog, I don't know, and there was a pig. And you ended up running from the pig?
No. Well, there was a breeder that I was friends with for a long time, and he used to hog hunt. And I don't know if he was with me when we caught a hog on his place, but I got invited to a hog hunt in Georgia, where a lot of doctors and lawyers were there to observe how to catch a hog with a pit bull. And I think that's the story you're talking about.
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
I've just heard this story so many times.
Well, the guy there that was catching hogs got us all in a group and explained to us, what to do and what not to do. And he said, we're going to catch a big boar, and when the pit grabs him and pins him down, we're going to grab him by his back legs and flip him over, and we're going to, hog tie him and walk him out on a pole. I said, okay. He said, whatever you do, don't run in a straight line, run in a circle if the hog gets loose so the pit could catch him again. I said, sure. And everything went just as planned. We had 300-pound boar, 3-inch tusk. Bay dogs got him frustrated. Pit bull caught him, held him down by the side of his head on his ear. I ran up to grab his back legs and flip him over. The dog bit his ear off, and the hog turned on me. And I forgot to run in a circle. I ran in a straight line and outrun that hog by about 10 car lengths.
Oh, my goodness.
But the pit bull caught him, and we tied him up and carried him out of the woods.
That's so crazy. Man, well, for our listeners who don't know, there is a big age gap between me and my siblings. Obviously, I came first. I give older sister energy. What were some of the challenges of raising me? I think our listeners want to hear. You can be honest, and if you say something too crazy, I'll just take it out.
Well, you were an easy child. You wasn't a hard child. You was very obedient. You had a natural fear of displeasing your parents, which I really appreciated. But unfortunately, me and your mother divorced when you were young. And at that point, I got to spend a lot of time with you, but I still had to work. So I couldn't keep you all the time, but I tried to keep you as much as possible. But just not knowing where you were sometimes, being with your mom or whatever, that was frustrating for me. Not being able to see you when I wanted to, that was frustrating. But I think every parent that goes, through a divorce has to deal with those type of feelings. But being a weekend warrior was kind of tough, And so for any parent that's used to seeing their child every night and telling them, good night and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden not having them, it's a void in your life when they're not with you. So that was a challenge.
Okay, so what about in the later years when I was a teenager and not so fun?
Okay. Well, you're definitely half me. So you're a very independent person. You didn't like being told what to do.
Still don't.
And as a lot of teenagers, they think they've got it all figured out and they're smarter than their parents. So they have to make their own mistakes. There was a period of time where maybe from 13 to 16, you never came and visited me. I had to go and pick you up every Thursday night. I took you out to eat to a restaurant, and we would spend a little time with each other. And your mother was fine with that because I wanted to continue to have communications with you and see you. I didn't want a period of time to go like 3 years without us having a relationship because you was going through your teenage years and having whatever the emotions you had. So that was difficult, and you had your ups and downs, like any teenager would. So I wouldn't say that you were a bad teenager at all, but you had your own tribulations with a split family, and you had siblings on both sides, and it wasn't picture perfect, but I think you turned out good. Maybe some people have to go through tough times to have the personality they have now.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, there's a big age gap between my siblings and I. So they're still young and still figuring out, and they have a ton of time. But I know that it was always your hopes that all of us would find our way into entrepreneurship. So how does it feel as a parent, genuinely asking because my kids are so tiny, I don't know. But how does it feel as a parent to see one of your children as an adult with their own family, kind of growing their own business? Like just how does that feel as a dad?
Oh, I'm very proud to see you do that. Just to be a mother is a huge challenge because you have two kids that are very close in age. And
10 months apart, yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. And I'll tell you all the time, I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, me neither.
I think women have a special talent when it comes to endurance, when it comes to children. But I'm very proud to see you take off and do good. And you and your family are doing great. Y'all very stable. I'm very proud to see that. And it's very uncommon today to see young people have a family and be stable and put a family ahead of everything else. So I'm very proud to see that.
Your previous home was up towards the Prattville, Montgomery area, and you recently relocated to Baldwin County. And so can you tell me what really attracted you to this area and why you like it so much?
Well, we've been coming to Gulf Shores for 20-something years, and we always brought y'all as kids down to the beach for a vacation. This was our vacation, coming to the beach. I love the ocean, everything that comes with it besides hurricanes. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, we had a contract on a large acres of land in Wetumpka, and it kept going on because we had some easement issues. And then I just looked at my wife and said, "Do you really want to live here? Or do you want to change?" And she was like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Let's just go somewhere. Mm-hmm. Let's go live by the coast. Let's just experience life. All the kids have moved out, and let's start somewhere else. We love the ocean." And she said, "Let's do it." So I called my land broker, told him to give my retainer back, and we contacted a real estate agent and started shopping down here. And I think it took us about 4 months to find our place, and we moved.
You mentioned all your kids being out of the house. How has that been for you and Lupe?
Oh, that's different. Ever since I've been married now, going on 26 years this January, so we've always had a kid in the house because when I married Lupe, I already had you. Mm-hmm. So we always had a child in the house, so we're used to having a family. And once the kids were gone, it was a little awkward not taking care of someone or being a part of their lives because, when you live by yourself, it's just you and yourself. And then you get married, you got two people. Then as kids come along, you got different slices of the pie where emotions are involved. Not only are you involved in your life, you're involved in their life. Then once their life leaves, it's a different void. But we enjoy ourselves. We started dating, going out more, just me and her, and it's been fun.
Wow. Well, I can't say that I'm looking forward to that time. I know that it's going to come, but I try to treasure every moment I have with my kids because I see how fast they grow. And it makes me so sad. I wake up every day and I feel like my son and my daughter they're huge. I look at them and I'm like, you were just a baby yesterday. And so I'm sure it's a pretty unique situation to wake up and just not have any children in your house all of a sudden.
Yeah, it is. It's different. Having coffee in your boxers is something different.
You don't do that.
Okay.
You guys are fully clothed all the time in your house. I don't care. That's what's happening in my head.
Okay.
I want to talk about Colorcraft just a little bit. When did you start that business and how did you get into it?
Well, I think officially 98, beginning of 98 is when I started. How I got into it is I was actually a home builder, and I lost my job with that and started trimming houses out for Dale Let Trimming, which is a wonderful guy, excellent carpenter, finished carpenter, and I just wasn't happy working for someone else. The pay was okay, but it was still week to week. Mm-hmm. And I had a family to take care of. I had things I wanted to do, and living week to week, as most people do, is very frustrating. So my brother offered me a job working for him, and told me he would teach me how to refinish cars. Mm-hmm. So I gave my 2-week notice. My boss, Dale Lett, said, I really like you, David. You're a great worker. What would it take to keep you on? And I said, it's not about the money. It's about wanting to have my own business one day. And he goes, I fully understand. That's why I own my own business. So I went to work for my brother, and I learned very quick. I really liked the automotive business, repairing cars and painting them. And as you know, sometimes siblings, it may be hard to work with. Mm-hmm. So we worked together for a couple of years, and then I thought it was best just to go on my own, start my own business. And I didn't have any customers, any contacts, anything at all. I went to the bank, and I wasn't doing great at the time, and I asked for a $16,000 signature loan, which I don't even think they do signature loans anymore.
Up to $1,000.
Really? Well, mine was $16,000. And a friend of mine made a business proposal for me. I'm not educated when it comes to drawing up graphs and charts and things like that. But they did this for me. And I went to the bank, and I met with the president of the bank, actually. And he just looked at me and said, I'll get back with you, come back, I'll call you, and let me look this over. And a week later, he called me back in, and he goes, I'm going to give you this loan, David, because I know who you are. I know you're a hard worker, and I feel like you'll pay it back. So I got the $16,000 on my signature, and I went and bought a van that had about 150,000 miles on it, mm-hmm. and some equipment. Another buddy of mine owned a sign business, and he helped me design a logo and put on it. And I hit the road. And my first week, I made $75. And it took me $150 to make that $75. But I established some business the first week, and it just kind of grew. I just kept staying at it. I was determined to make a living at this because I had child support on you. I had my own bills, and it was basically make it or just bust. Mm-hmm.
So how long after opening the business, do you think that it took you to really feel like you were profitable in the way you wanted to be?
I wouldn't say profitable in the way I wanted it to be, but I was making a living within 6 months.
Oh, that's very fast for a new business.
Well, I was living off credit cards in the beginning. Yeah. But it took about 6 months, and then in those 6 months, things started changing. I started making a good profit and able to get my own place, and I could just see the future, mm-hmm. that self-employment was where I wanted to be.
And you started primarily with paintless dent removal, but I know that your company, Colorcraft, offers other services. Can you go into a little bit of what you guys offer and what you specialize in?
Well, I started off with painting.
Oh, painting.
Repairing and painting cars. I didn't get into the paintless dent removal till about 2 to 3 years later. So I started off painting, which I was really good at, and then I started doing interior repairs on cars, cigarette burns, leather repairs, and different things. And then back then, paintless dent removal wasn't very popular, but I could see there would be a huge need for it. And when your sister was born, Raquel, I went to school in Iowa for a week and learned I trained to do paintless dent removal because no one around here was doing it. And the ones who were doing it wasn't going to teach me because I was going to be their competition. So I bought the tools. I did a 5-day training course. I came back and said, I'll never know how to do this. This is crazy. But I just stuck with it. 5 days a week I practiced while I worked on cars, painting cars. I see a dent, I just fix it. And then finally I learned and I started moving forward with that. And as my paint business grew, I hired people and trained them to do the paint work. And then personally, I just did the paintless dent removal myself.
So how did you get clients? Like, how did you start selling the business? Did you go to dealerships and say, hey, this is who I am, hire me, or what? That's
how I did it at first. I would just go and introduce myself to dealerships, used car managers, general managers, and tell them what services I offer. And I'd even offer to do a example of what I could do. I'd take one of their most messed up cars and I'd work on it. And I'd tell them, if you don't like the quality of my work, you don't have to pay me. But it always went well. And then within time, word of mouth started traveling. And in the car business, managers go from dealership to dealership and salesmen do too. So people started calling me and asking me to do their dealerships. And we went from, doing 5 dealerships to 22.
Wow. That's huge.
Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, you've grown it quite a bit, and you've got, some guys working for you that have been with you for a while. How many trucks do you have?
3.
Going out with different
4, actually, including myself. But I got some good guys working for me, and not only are they my employees, they are friends of mine as well. We've developed a friendship, and everything in my business is based on trust. They're good guys. They make mistakes, but I do too. Mm-hmm. So we all kind of give ourselves that allowance. But at the end of the day, we all try to be honest. We all try to be upfront and realize that this is something we do to make a living and take care of our families.
Mm-hmm. What's been the most frustrating thing for you just owning this business and having to deal with so many different people, so many different businesses all at one time? Because you're a business to business.
Just money. People owing you money. Mm-hmm. And the confusion of middlemen sometimes, because you have accounts payable and you have different people working in that, and then you have to deal with electronics in your invoicing and your statement. The frustrating part, I guess, would be making sure that my end matches their end. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the month, the Colorcraft gets paid what they should, because sometimes stock numbers could be wrong, or inventory might not be right on their end, or maybe I messed up on mine. But I guess that's the most frustrating part. And I guess the weather too. Weather is a factor in my business. So if we get 2 weeks with rain, that's pretty hard on my guys, because it's really hard for them to make a living if it's raining constantly.
I remember when I was younger, I would always get really excited when it was raining outside, because we always had so much more fun. When you were home, you were always wanting to do stuff. You mentioned you had so much energy and you were always wanting to do things with us and play with us and take us places. And so when it would rain, I'd be like, oh, it's raining, Dad ain't going to work. So I thought that was kind of cool. For me, not for you, now that we're grown-ups and I'm looking at it that way. But I used to think, when you're a kid, you have no concept of money or what things cost. So you just think, well, the money's going to be there, whatever, but I get to hang out with my parents. So I always thought that was really cool. You mentioned that you have a 10-year age gap with your brother, or a big age gap with your brother. It's 10 years, which is the same age gap I have with my youngest brother. And how was that for you, having a sibling so different in age? Because I think you and I have different experiences with it.
Yeah. Well, my brother was a real good brother to me. When we came to the United States, my father and mother divorced. I think I was around 3. So my mother only had 3rd grade education. She didn't speak English well. So it was really, really hard. She had to work some, jobs that paid $2 an hour, and she would work 2 full-time jobs. She'd work during the day at a sewing factory, and then at night she'd go work at a pizza plant. So that left my brother to take care of me sometimes. So he was really good to me. He's my older brother and was kind of like a father figure to me when I was real little. So I guess that was cool. But as I got older, the age gap, was more obvious then. But he's always been a real good person to me. He's a man of his word, and he set a good example for me in most of my life. It would have been cool if we were closer in age, but we probably would have gotten a lot of fist fights or killed each other if we were the same age. But him being an older brother, he always, tried to set the example for me, and I appreciate him.
So we have the opposite experience. I'm the older sibling, and Roman is the baby. He's the baby of all my siblings, and he was always my little favorite. Because he was a baby, and I was 10, and I was like, oh, he's a baby. And we're actually more than 10 years apart, because he's going to turn 21 in a few days, and, I'll be 32 in a few months. So just a very different thing. And my sister and I are only 8 years apart, Raquel. Yeah. And she and I, turmoil. There was, just headbutting and personality differences. Raquel has a very strong personality. I have a very strong personality. Lots of competition there. And so we didn't get along a whole lot. And I was kind of mean to her when we were younger. But now Raquel is my best friend. I call her almost every day. We talk all the time about everything. Anytime something good happens, I call Raquel. Anytime something bad happens, call Raquel. So I'm just trying to figure out how it feels on the other end of things to have a sibling that's that much older than you. Because if you were to ask Raquel and Roman, they'd be like, "Oh my God, horrible."
Well, me and my brother are very similar in a lot of ways, but we're very different in a lot of ways too. And that could be frustrating for both of us, I guess. But I'm the baby of the family, so he's always going to feel like he needs to tell me what to do, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that to the most of my life. Sometimes I might not, but with you guys, it was different for you because you didn't live in the same house with them all the time, mm-hmm. where me and my brother grew up together in the same house. So we were, very close, and I'm not going to say forced to be family, but our situation allowed us to be very close. I trusted him, mm-hmm. And he trusted me, and a lot of times it was just me and him. Whereas with you, you live with your mom, then you come visit me on the weekends, and then sometimes you live with me, and then, kind of went back and forth. So I don't think y'all really had a chance to bond the way you should have at a younger age. And Raquel always looked up to you, and Roman did too. But, like you said, there's a period in your life as a teenager, you might have been thinking more about yourself than, your siblings at the time. And there might have been some instances where you might have been a little mean. I don't know. But,
no, there definitely were.
Well, I didn't know about it until later on in life. If I knew about it then, I would have addressed it. But I didn't hear about this until later. But I'm happy as a father that all you guys are getting along in your family. It's all I've ever wanted.
Yeah. Well, I think family is really important. And most of our viewers, have their own families at home. A lot of people that are going to be listening to this podcast are up-and-coming business owners, people who either want to go into business for themselves or who are already in business for themselves, trying to figure out how to make it work. How do they balance family and business? How do they, get past the slump of, is this going to work or not? So I guess if you had a piece of advice that you could give them from your experience and from where you're sitting now, if you could go back, and just me, if you could give me one piece of advice to make my business more successful, or give our viewers one piece of advice to just really, this is the one thing that they should take with them, what would it be?
Don't stop. I'd rather fail 10 times and be successful once than never try ever at all. Be honest in your business dealings. We're in a market right now where men don't want to work.
That's so true.
People don't want to work. Women are stronger because they're forced to be, because the men, they're not doing physical labor like they did when I was a young boy. They want to make a living from their phones or YouTube, or the internet or interview somebody and become a millionaire. Ask them how they became a millionaire. I don't know. But whatever you choose to do, put your foot in it. Mm-hmm. Be honest with it. Work hard. And I've never seen anyone turn someone away that does hard, honest work for a reasonable price. Mm-hmm. I wish I could find a bunch of people like that. Mm-hmm. But you can't.
Yeah, no.
So right now, especially with the things have went nationwide for us and a lot of physical laborers have been deported, mm-hmm. That's left a huge market for people to make a lot of money with trades, working with their hands. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, there's just not a lot of men that want to work with their hands anymore. So I'm just like, man up, go for it, be honest, and you'll reap what you sow.
Oh my God, I never heard that before.
Yeah, I know. I've said that more than once to you.
This is the slogan of my life, my childhood growing up. Is you're going to reap what you sow. You're going to reap what you sow. It's so funny. In my BNI group, my business networking group that I'm in, once a week we meet, and the structure of the meeting is they will call on somebody to explain what giver's gain means. The giver's gain is like kind of the slogan or the motto of the group. And I never get called on. The whole time that I've been in this group in Tulsa and down here, I never get called on because I don't make eye contact and I try to keep low because I don't like doing that kind of stuff. I don't like doing things because I'm told to, But I got called on for the first time in a year. And our president called on me and he was like, hey, we never heard from Morgan. Morgan, tell us what giver's gain means. And all I could hear in my voice was David McGough. You're going to reap what you sow. You're going to reap what you sow. So I stood up and basically said that. Like, hey, you're going to sow seed into the ground. You're going to get what you get out of it. And they were like, that's the best thing we've ever heard. And I was like, oh, well, I take all the credit.
Well, it's true. I mean, that golden rule applies to every human on earth. You do good, you're going to reap good. You do bad, you're going to reap bad. And I think that came from when you were going through some, tough times in your life. And I try to tell you what to do. If you don't listen, I say, all right. But either way, you're going to reap what you sow.
And reap I did.
We all have. I mean, nobody's perfect. But I think as a businessman and as a father, you have to be long-sighted. You can't be narrow-minded. You got to look at a big picture. Mm-hmm. What's your vision? What do you want for your kids? What do you want for your business? Kids are going to mess up. They're going to make mistakes. But what are you installing in them at an early age so it comes back when they're a little more mature? Don't expect them as teenagers to take that advice and just run with it and be that person, because I wasn't that person either. But I still hear my mother's voice in my head, things she would tell me, when I was younger, which made a lot of sense now. It just didn't make sense then. Mm-hmm.
That's so true. Where do you see your business, both your businesses, but where do you see 2026 taking you? What would you like to see happen in 2026 with Powerline Kennels and with Colorcraft?
Okay, well, with Powerline Kennels, we took a 15-year break with Powerline Kennels. So I just recently got back into it 4 to 5 years ago.
Took a 15-year break once I was out of the house.
That's part of it, yes. The reason why I sold Powerline Kennels was because y'all were going through some tough times. And I felt like I had too many irons in the fire. I had Alabama Customs, which was a truck accessory business, Colorcraft, which is a reconditioning business, and Powerline Kennels, which I had, 20 breeding dogs at the time. Then I had 3 kids. And I think around 40 years old, I realized I wasn't invincible anymore. I couldn't do everything, so something had to go. Obviously, my family is more important than anything else. So shut down Alabama Customs. I sold Powerline Kennels. And then once all the kids were raised up and on their way to whatever they want to do, I started buying dogs again because it's my passion. I love American Pit Bull Terriers. Where I would like to see Powerline Kennels in 2026 is first generations of the genetics that I've chosen to be established through breeding. I've collected dogs from all over the United States in the past 5 years, and half the dogs I collected wasn't worth keeping. So there's a lot of people promising quality and putting up pictures, but the product that you receive is not what you expected. So I replaced them in homes and kept the good dogs that I wanted to expound on genetically as far as my breeding program. So 2026, I should see some offsprings off those, all mixing my dogs and my bloodline. So I'd be real excited to see what I produce in 26. As far as Colorcraft goes, since we've had so many changes in government, the car business has kind of taken a lag. It's a little slow. I like to see it pick up. Interest rates on cars are still kind of high, and I don't know if the tariffs are affecting the sales of cars or what's going on, but I would like to see the volume of cars pick back up to what it was a couple of years ago and see the business kick off. So all my guys, they stay busy, they're happy, they're making money, and that's the way it should be.
Maybe Trump will introduce a 50-year car loan, and then everything will pick up. People will start flying off the shelves.
I don't know. I don't put my hope in just one person, but I would like to see everybody do well and financially be able to have what they want. And that just when you work hard, you need to get what you want.
So American Pit Bull Terriers are kind of a controversial dog. They're great for a lot of things, but then there's also a lot of misinformation out there about them and results of poor breeding. You get some dogs who end up in the headlines. What can you tell our viewers to look for when they're looking for one of these dogs to make sure that they're getting a good quality dog and one that isn't going to end up being on the news for eating their face off?
Yeah, well, in every neighborhood throughout the whole world, there's pit bulls in a backyard. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of breeders, but we have gone 50 years past the good programs that the old dog men had in their breeding programs and their instincts on what to keep and what to cull. And when I use the word cull, I do mean like not putting in their breeding program. They can place them as pets, put them on farms, do whatever they want to do, but you got people now that they think that they're going to get rich by breeding dogs, so they buy dogs, and the dogs don't turn out, but they can't afford to buy any more and replace them, so they have to lie about the qualities of the dogs. And they'll breed the dog, and they'll keep, puppies off the litter, and they might not turn out, but they'll keep the puppies too on their breeding program, breed them back to the mother or brother and sister. And inbreeding is acceptable, and it can be a very big plus in your program, but you got to know what to look for in offspring. Mm-hmm. It's just like humans or any other living creature. When you inbreed things, you got some things that can really come out good, and you got some things that come out bad. You can't use the bad in your breeding program. Mm-hmm. You get people too inbred, you can tell.
Oh yeah.
We
live in Alabama.
they got emotional problems. They may have physical problems. Well, that's not what you want in your breeding program with animals because you can control that. Yeah. So the dog, there's nothing wrong with the dog. I love the breed. I think it's the best breed in the world. The problem is not with the breed. The problem is with the people that breed them. You got a lot of people that have no business breeding these dogs. They don't know what to look for, and they don't have the heart to do what's necessary to keep this blood pure for the standard of the American Pit Bull Terrier.
Okay, so where can we find you? Where can we find Colorcraft if we're looking for it? Where can we find Powerline Kennels? How can we find you if we're looking for you?
Colorcraft has a website, colorcraftpros.com. And as far as Powerline Kennels, I haven't designed a website yet, or I'm looking to have one designed soon, but I'm on Facebook.
I know somebody.
Yeah. Well, that's something we'll have to work out soon. But I've generally just been communicating with people over Facebook. And like I have a customer named Jeff in New York. We've been doing business together. He's bought several dogs for me over the last 20 years. And he just drove from New York to my house. it was really good to see him and his family, and he bought another pup from me. So I've got some old customers that realize that I was honest with them. I sold them a good product, and they have bought from other people and been disappointed. And now that they know that I'm back into breeding the pit bulls, they'll keep in touch with me. When something comes up that they really like, they'll reach out to me. But I am interested in expanding real soon.
Doggy Eugenics 101. Okay, before we end the podcast episode, when people are going to buy a dog, not just your breed of dog, but any breed of dog, and they're dealing with a breeder that they're finding online, what are some warning signs that they should look for to not do business with that breeder?
If they're hiding things, if they're elusive of the questions that you're asking, if there is no detail of their living circumstances, like you don't see them, you don't see where they live, the conditions their dogs live in, if they're really pushing the money aspect of it, do you get a gut feeling that it's more about the money than the dogs? Things like that you want to be aware of.
Well, thank you so much for being on my podcast today, Dad, and this is going to bring a conclusion to this episode of Morgan Means Business. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, and if you're listening to us, thanks.